Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another video tutorial. Today we're gonna discuss Unity and the basics of Unity and how Unity even works. So again, this is meant for those who don't know it yet and want to learn, or for those who want to like freshen up on certain topics of it. So this is Unity in front of you right now on the screen. Uh, it looks weird, right? It looks very boring, I dare to even say. Um, but it's very powerful. The cool thing about this game engine that it's very powerful and can do amazing things once you know how to use it. So which is probably why you're listening and watching this video right now, to learn the basics of it and to create a simple level. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a very simple basic level using the terrain and first person controller and some lighting to make it look awesome. And then we're going to play it. So and after that we're gonna maybe add some like C# scripts, maybe to add some gameplay to it, because you have to realize inside Unity there is nothing. If you want to add something like a gun that shoots bullets, you will have to make it yourself. If you want to have like a giant boulder chasing you, you have to make it yourself. There's nothing in it that does it for you. So which is a cool thing, a good thing about Unity, but also one of the downsides. Because if you don't know how to, for example, code in C sharp, you're well pretty much fucked, to put it that way. So which is why I'm doing this, so those who want to make a game can learn how to do it. So let's just dive in. Um, like I said, this is Unity itself. As you can see, it has a bunch of windows. It might look daunting, but it's actually really simple. So this is your scene, and by holding Alt and then the left mouse button you can rotate, just like in Maya for example, or 3ds Max. All 3ds Max different, but Alt and the middle mouse button is pen, or just middle mouse button 3, it does the same, and Alt right mouse button is zoom, or just hit scroll, it does the same. So this is the scene, and next to it you can find game, which right now is empty because there's nothing in the game yet, but this is like a viewport so you can see what it will look like when you're done, in theory. So let's go back to our scene. You can see here there's a bunch of buttons here that you can use to switch between sides, bottom, front, left, right, for example, and also one in the middle. When you click on it, it turns into an isometric display, which means that it's 2D. When you click on it again, it turns into 3D. It's very important that you don't by accident click on it and you're like, oh, it's fucked up. Just click it again, and it's gone. It's again the way it should be, right? Okay. So when you look to the left here in your hierarchy, you can find two objects right now: the directional light and camera. Everything in your hierarchy is in the game. So this is all the stuff that's currently in my game, which is nothing. And everything inside here is called a game object. It's very important when you start doing coding, for example, or when someone talks to you about game objects, you know that everything inside this hierarchy menu is a game object, and every game object can be changed and animated and etc, etc, etc. So when you click on, for example, the light here, and you go to the right here into the inspector, you can find a whole bunch of options again. So this is the name of the object. In this case it's called directional light, and it's turned on. When you click this on and off, you can see it actually turns off. Then you got the position of the object in world space, and light. These two here, transform and light, are called components inside Unity. It's very important that you know this. It's called a component. You can even add components here, and this might be like weird to you, but you have no idea what it means, but it's fine. You'll know some of them by the end of this video. So again, these are called components. Again, this is the position of the object in world space. You can change it, for example, to 0, 0, 0. Then it's dead center, or you can even like type 100 here, for example, and it goes up. X, of course, is horizontal. Z is in depth and C space, and Y is up. So red is X, as you can see. Blue is Z, and Y, green, is up. When you look at the camera, well, one hotkey that's really helpful is F. So I got my camera selected, I just hit F, and then it zooms in on that certain object. It's really helpful. You can see here some stuff here like clear flags. It's not really important right now. Perspective, you can set to orthographic. That means it's a 2D image. Clipping planes, etc. It's not really interesting right now. Just know that you can access or change stuff by going into the inspector. Down here in the project, this is your asset folder. This is where everything will be stored when you import something, when you create a texture or create a script. Everything can be found here. Now it's very important that you keep this nice and tidy, so like make folders. When you just create or right click in your asset folder, you can add folders for like models, textures, sounds, scripts, prefabs, etc, etc, etc. Do it. It will just make your life a little bit easier, and also the people who are working with you, they will love you when you actually like be tidy and create a folder structure that is actually useful. So don't be afraid, just do it. Okay, so those were like the interface issues, the interface stuff that you can find all the way up here. Up there you got the basic menus, again file edit, the ones that you all know, and window help. We also got the assets, in which you can create an assets. This one is the same as when you click here. And then you can import new package, import new asset, export, etc. Not really interesting right now, so let's just go to the game object. So again, everything in here in your hierarchy is called the game object. So by going to the game object, you will know that you add something to the actual game. It can be an empty or a 3D object or light, audio, UI, particle system, etc. So let's just first do something basic. Let's just create a 3D object and click on terrain. Boom, terrain. It's flat, nothing in it, but you can now see that we added a game object called terrain, and you can also find it in your asset folder. So down here, and it's actually called new terrain.asset. So when you got this one selected, by clicking in the hierarchy, you can actually see again the components. In this case, we added two different ones. One is called terrain, and one is called the terrain collider. This one is really well needed, otherwise you can't walk on the surface. So you might want to keep it on. Then you got here a bunch of buttons that you can press. So you got the raise lower terrain, paint height, smooth height, texture, trees, details, and settings. So let's just start making a simple terrain, right? So I'm going to click on my raise and lower terrain, and then you get the brushes. I'm going to pick something a bit more rough than this one smooth. I'm going to pick this one for example. You can see here, it actually you get this nice blue brush. You can of course make it bigger, and the opacity as well. This means how much, how strong that brush is. So 100 is probably not something you want to do. Something like 10. See a difference here right now, or like 25 or 30, whatever. It depends on you. I'm gonna pick a little bit one, maybe this one. Yeah, and something like 15. I don't know. So this is the size of our current level of our current map. So I kind of want to make it like that you can't walk through it. So I'm gonna paint this very rough edge around it, make it a little bit stronger actually. It looks stupid, I know, but it's fine for now. I just want to make like a part where you cannot walk any further, so maybe even more, even higher. Pretty, or not. As you can see when we zoom in, that it looks a bit weird, right? When I start painting, it actually comes a bit smoother than when I just look at it. That's because of the settings. So let's just go to the settings right now. So up here. This is the thing that actually creates these settings for you, or how detailed your terrain should be. So you put it all the way up, you get nothing, and when you put it all the way down, you get a very fine detailed. Just know that this one is very expensive because it has a lot of detail. So we can actually check it by going click on shaded. We can actually turn it to wireframe, and then you can see the triangles in your mesh. So let's up it again to 100. You'll see what happens. To 200. See this very low poly, and when you go all the way down, you can actually start seeing that it adds more and more detail, finer detail to your mesh. And when you zoom out, you start seeing those patches appear. That's called an LOD system, or level of detail. By the further the camera is away from that certain object, the lower poly it will be. And that is pretty much all you need to know for now. So let's go back to shaded again, and let's start looking at the other settings that you can use. So maybe let's create something, I don't know, Let's create something like a V shape here because we can. Maybe one here as well. Like let's cut a corner, for example, a little bit higher, a bit rougher here in the middle here as well. And maybe let's make a path somewhere, right? That would be cool for the player can walk on. So let's go to this one, paint height. What this one does, when you what says here, hold shift to sample target height. So when I click here, for example, and hold shift, then this point here will be my target height. I'll show what happens. Then you can see everything gets clipped at the height that I just selected by holding shift. This is actually very helpful for creating a flat terrain for maybe like a house. Maybe there's a house up here or a castle or whatever, right? Let's go to this one again, and it's very subtle. Just want to make it a little bit more rough than it is. Odd shape as well, that's probably my bad. Let's do this. Let's flatten them all, because it looks cool. There you go. Okay. Simple terrain, nothing really fancy. It's basic. Of course, right now it doesn't have any color or texture on it, so I kind of want to change it. I can go here to my texture, paint texture. Again, you got the brushes that you can use, but as you can see right now, there are no textures defined. So when you click on edit textures, you can add a texture, and then click on select for the albedo, this one here. But as you can see, we don't have anything imported right now. We don't have any assets at all in the game, so we want to do that. We want to add something. Let's take this all away, and then we can, in my assets folder here, I'm gonna right click and then click on import package. Then I'm gonna click on an environment. A package is something like a pre-made zip file or RAW file that has certain textures in it and scripts and controllers and whatever. So I'm gonna select all and just hit import. It might take a while for it to load. Packages are really helpful. The game engine comes with like 8 of them. It's environment, but also like a character controller is in there as well. Particle effects, they're all default ones that you can use or change. That would be even better. But it's really helpful to get like a quick start on making stuff. So again, I'm gonna click on my terrain. I'm gonna select it, and again, edit textures, add texture. Click here on the albedo one. Then you get a bunch more. There's one here, cliff albedo, and grass hill, grass rock, muddy texture, mud rocky, normal map, palm bark. Of course you want to do something like that actually fits, so I'm gonna click on my cliff albedo here, just double click it, and then you can hit add, and boom. Now it's important to know that the first texture that you add will be the default one for the entire terrain. So when I change it, so when I add a different one, let's do this one, broadleaf. You can see it adds it to the entire terrain. So the first texture selected here will be your default texture for the entire terrain. So let's do one that makes sense. So let's do again the cliff albedo one, and just hit add. There you go. It looks awful because the tiling, I mean, the textures are not that great, but you know, we can start at least. So let's add one more. Let's add texture. Let's do the grass rock, this one. Boom. Then you can select it by you can tell which one is selected by this very small blue line here. Then you can just start painting again. So I kind of like this part here. That's quite cool actually. So I'm gonna paint everything else except that one. Again, it's just painting with a brush, like Photoshop or whatever. Just paint, roughly in this case. I don't care about the finer details right now. I just want to get things done. Pretty. Of course, you could change it again to this one if you want to. There it goes. Maybe a little bit smaller brush size. This actually looks kind of cool. These textures here on the side. I might change the entire. Let's do this one again. And let's do this. I kind of like that one, so. Bigger brush. Then you get this actual cliff feel to it, and it looks really good actually. Okay, let's go back to the texture again. The cliff albedo one, lower the brush size, and again start painting. There you go. Good enough for now. Okay. That's kind of cool. Okay. So this is a terrain, and a terrain of course has more details like grass and trees. So when you go here to your place trees brush, you can add trees if you had them. Right now there are no trees defined, so I'm gonna click on edit trees, add trees. I'm gonna get a different menu because this time we're not selecting a texture but an actual game object. So I'm gonna click here on this small circle here, and then we have 4 options. Got the broadleaf, conifer, and palm desk. I'm just gonna pick the broadleaf. I think, yeah, let's do this one. This one's cool. Just hit add. Right, they're still not there. That's fine. So I'm gonna lower down my tree density. Oh, it's gonna be insane. And then I'm just gonna click tree. Then you can add them. Just don't do it too. Don't overdo it. A little bit more dense here. This is a giant. Oh, these are really expensive on a computer. So don't push it too far. Unless you want your computer to go up in smoke, then by all means go for it. But I kind of don't, so I kind of want to keep it subtle. Let's just add some more. Maybe a flock here, like a tree here. That'd be cool. Maybe one here as well. Oh, actually, no. Let's do it differently. Okay. Cool. Trees. I'm gonna hit save. Ctrl S. In this case, I've saved it before, but you'll just get a menu, pop-up menu that will ask you where to save the scene. Just give it a name that actually makes sense. Okay. Let's add some even more detail. Down there, you can actually add paint details, which is like grass, for example. So I'm gonna hit edit details, add grass texture. Again, a different menu, and just hit again on this small circle over here. I'm gonna pick this one because this one is really cool, and add it. And now you'll see what happens. You can start painting it. Grass. Again, just don't overdo it. Let's do opacity a little bit lower. It's too low. Oh, it's too much. Now I got grass. A lot of grass. If like, okay, I don't like this. It's too much. You can hold shift and just paint away certain areas. Again with the brush, and just again when you just click it, it's just the normal one. Let's do the target strength a little bit lower. A little bit more subtle would be nice. There you go. Much better. And not that dangerous for a computer. Now as you can see, when I zoom out, the grass disappears. This is just a failsafe for the game engine, so there are not too many. There's not too much stuff going on screen. When you move forward, you can actually see it again. So it's still there, but just hidden for a reason. Let's maybe add some more here as well. Why not, right? Again, it's there, as you can see, but it's just hidden. Like small blocks here, there, kind of cool. Okay. Let's flood this entire area. Cause why not? So by default, there is a water system inside Unity that you can use. It can be found under the standard assets, environment, and then water. Water 4, and water basic. They're actually really cool. So you got, for example, this water 4 advanced. You can just drag it in and load it up and higher. Then you got this really nice ocean. You can see here, this looks really awesome. It's just plain, which you can't make bigger. You can make it bigger, just the waves will be bigger as well. Let's just grab it here, make it really big, like this. Now when I hit play, I just want to show you what happens. The game is being compiled, but actually we can't do anything yet because the camera is lower than the actual terrain itself. It's a little bit awkward, but you get the basic idea of what's going on. So you can actually, if you want to, grab the camera here and move it. So you have a basic idea of what the scene will look like when it's actually in game. So let's do it higher, like this. And then you get the game. Of course, we still can't move it. You can see here this actually looks really cool, but the scale of the waves is massive. It's like a freaking tsunami. So I'm gonna grab my Water 4 Advanced in my scene, I should note. And then of course you can change some stuff. You got tile, tile, tile. These are just small tiles of the actual water itself. That's the downside of it, because it's so massive. We should probably set it to 1 again. Then the waves should be a little bit more gentle. Yeah, you can see here. A bit more subtle, but that means we have to stitch them together. So we have to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D and moving it. Trying to get it to match perfectly. It's gonna be a little bit of annoying. Then we can add more and more. Of course, it's not ideal, but yeah. Let's check out the other water systems. Let's delete these as well, actually. We also have water, just water. Then you can click on prefab, water pro this time. And then you can make it bigger. This one is a cylinder, but the shape itself doesn't really matter, so don't worry about it. Make it bigger and lower it. There we go. This one looks a lot different. It's static. Well, it's not static. It's just very subtle. The movement is very subtle. So this is not. This is more for like a small little pond in someone's backyard or something like that. You know, it's just nothing really like the ocean itself. But it can work fine. So let's just leave it like this for now. A little bit higher, something like this. Because I kind of want to see what it looks like in game. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to grab my camera. I'm just going to hit delete because we don't need it. I'm going to make a different one. So again, in my assets folder here, I'm going to right click and import package and then characters. By default there are two. There's a first person controller and a third person controller. Let's just import it real quickly. It's a bit bigger than the previous one. It might take a little bit longer. Oh, there it is. Almost done. There you go. Again, it can be found under the standard assets, characters this time, first person character and then the prefab. And then you can just drag it in the game. Hit F so you can zoom in on the object and a little bit higher, something like this, and then just hit play. And voila. We're playing the first game. Does it look good? Not really, but now this is something you should know about the water system in any game engine. This looks really good right now, but when I go beneath it, whoop, it's gone. Again, hop. That's a bit of a downside of it. If you want to change it, you should have you should code it pretty much or add fog. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, so I'll just do it some other time, or it's in a different video of mine that you can see. It looks a bit weird, but yeah. So, as is right now, we are in game mode. It's actually really important to note this. If we were now to make a change to our game itself, everything will be undone the second we exit the game. So if you want to change your scene or a setting of light, etc., make sure that you're not in the game. So in this case, I'm going to hit Ctrl P or Command P or just hit the play button. So again, before you make a change, make sure that you're not in game. Exit the game, otherwise it simply won't work. Done. Our first uber basic game. Does it look awesome? Nah, not really. Let's check some stuff. So we also have a light in here, directional light. This one. This actual one is really helpful because we can explain a different part of it. So as you can see right now, the pivot point or the point of which we rotate on is aligned to the world, which is not really helpful for this light. So when you click up here, you can set it to pivot center or global and local, and now you can see that it actually changes the pivot point to actually match the actual light itself or object. Then we can rotate it. You can see that the shadows go with it. It's really awesome. When you look at the sky right now, you actually see it slowly turns into a sunset, and then fades to dark. It's actually really helpful. It's really cool feature as well. So let's have a look at the light, and in the inspector at the light component. You can change the type here from directional to spot as well if you want to. Point light, area light. Just leave it like this and directional, which it just means that it will light the entire scene. That's pretty much what it does. Okay, then you can of course set the color. You can make it whatever you want. Just don't overdo it. Don't make it pink or orange, too orangey. Let's leave it something like this, right? And then of course the intensity, so how strong is that light? Is it very subtle or really in your face? The bounce intensity. With Unity 5 came a new lighting engine with GI, which means that they can fake light bouncing throughout the scene. Sometimes you want to tweak it or cheat it even, and then you can set this one higher. So you can see here the light bounce gets stronger. You want to be careful with that one because it can look really ugly. So gently. Shadow type, hard shadows, or no shadows, hard shadows or soft shadows. The last one, soft shadows are a bit more expensive, but they will always look better. Also the strength you can tweak, that you can cheat pretty much. The bias you see here on the trees, just leave it to 0. Near plane, etc. just leave it to 0 as well, 0.1. The other two are not really important. That's just as it is. Okay, pretty easy. Pretty cool, right? Pretty easy as well. The game engine itself is pretty easy to learn. It doesn't take that much time, but if you want to make something fancy, then yeah, it will take a bit more time to get everything, or to know everything. Which is something we'll do in a different video, not this one. What I do want to do though is I want to walk you through the settings that you can change. When you go, for example, to assets or edit, and then project settings, then you can go to the quality tab here. You can go for fastest, really fast, simple, good, beautiful, and fantastic. I've got it set to fantastic, but that's really dependent on your computer right now. So depends what you have, right? Also the pixel light count here. This one means, or just it's a setting so you can control how many real-time lights should be active in a game, or on screen, I should say on screen. If you have like a shit ton of lights, you probably need to up this one. So if light does something weird, make sure that this one is set to like a reasonable number, like 10, 15, maybe even higher if you need to. Sampling, anti-aliasing in this case, I can set up to 8. I can. Real-time reflection and billboard face cam. Shadow distance, so from how far will these shadows be drawn. If it's set to really low, like 0, there are no shadows. If it is 1, you can see here where it does. It slowly starts filling in the shadows. And the higher the number, the more expensive, but cooler it will look. But just be careful that you don't overdo it, right? Okay. Let's look at the other packages. So I'm going to import a new package, and then I'm going to do the effects. I'm going to do the effects because this one is really cool. I just want to show it to you. It can really make your game look better and more awesome if applied properly, of course. So let's wait for it to import. There we go. So we now got a new tab on a component. We can now find the image effects that we just imported. So I'm going to go to my FPS controller here. I'm going to open up my camera. So in this case it's the first person character, which is the actual camera, because these effects need to be applied to a camera, and this is not a camera. This is. So then, for example, image effects, you can apply anti-aliasing. Bloom, be careful with bloom, can be really ugly. I'll just show you what happens. Let's rotate the entire character for a second. So right now it's subtle. It's adds this really nice glow to the game. It can add nice glow to the game. Of course, you can overdo it. You can make it really high. Let's up it all the way. And maybe something like this. See if he does something. It should add a nice bloom to it, but this is a simple scene, so that doesn't really work. I'm just gonna remove the anti-aliasing as well for a second. Blur, you can blur the entire screen. You probably don't want to do that, but you can. Just be careful with it. Just don't overdo this. Let's see what else we got. Camera motion blur. This is kind of cool. Vignetting, color, chromatic aberration, color adjustments. You can actually change the colors in game. Edge detection, displacement, rendering. This one is really cool. You can add global fog, for example. Then you can fog. You can also change it. You can actually check it here. You can also change it to the this to distance fog. Turn this one off and use height. Of course, we now can't see it because we're really up high. But this one is actually really cool for like scary scenes. This one is really awesome. This just adds fog based on the environment of your scene. Let's do, what else do we have? Screen space ambient occlusion, really important. I'll show you a trick in the, soon. And then we also got the sun shafts. This is really awesome. You can see here it's a bit dirty, but you get the idea. We can actually, I think I could actually add this one. Then you get these nice sun shafts or god rays, but known as god rays, which is really add atmosphere to your scene. Just don't overdo this. Be careful. You can, of course, overdo this. I'm going to show you a trick for screen space ambient occlusion. I'm going to grab my camera again, then rendering, and then screen space ambient occlusion here. This just adds ambient occlusion to your scene, but how do you know what settings to use? It's a bit of a trick. It's a bit tricky, so I'm going to show you a very dirty cheat. I'm going to my window, and then I'm going to go to my lighting tab here. This one. Then make sure that you're in your scene. You can change a lot of stuff here as well. So like the ambient source to gradient or set color or skybox, reflection intensity, baked GI, etc. I'm going to turn on fog. I'm going to be dirty. I'm going to turn on fog for the ambient occlusion. I'm going to say here, I'm going to make it white. It's even worse. And pop up the intensity all the way to 1. Now we can actually start seeing the ambient occlusion here, so now we can actually start tweaking it. I'm going to set it to high, and then you can set the radius a little bit smaller, for example, or higher if you want to. Probably just get higher. You can blur it even further if you want to, or no blur at all. It's then very, very crisp but ugly. Downsampling. I'm not going to do it. So something like this. The occlusion attenuation and minimum Z. So this is a very dirty trick to tweak your ambient occlusion, but it works really well. So again, let's go to the lighting tab and turn on fog, and now turn it off, and now you get the perfect settings for ambient occlusion. Bit of a cheat, but yeah, gets the job done. It's not bad. It's not bad. It doesn't look that great, but it's not bad. For a very simple first level, this will suffice. Neat. So next time we're going to do C# basics. After that we're going to do lighting and atmosphere in Unity. So I'll see you again next time.